Welcome to User Insights, a podcast series powered by UXRmy.
So hello everyone and welcome back once again to yet another episode of our UXRmy podcast. I'm your host Alokika, and today we're exploring the topic of evolving role of UX researchers and its value to business. Meet our host Daylon for the podcast today, who wears multiple hats of being a technology management consultant, a product coach, career mentor, and has a passion for transforming businesses and empowering individuals in the UX industry. So Daylon's specialities lies in the realms of marketplace platform, financial services, and e-commerce, where he has leveraged his strategic insights and drives innovation in both. So throughout his role as a career coach and tech educator, Daylon has introduced countless individuals to this field of user experience, design, and product management. Daylon, over to you. Would you like to tell us a bit of years of experience in this industry of more than a decade, and what you guys do at CuriousCore?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the welcome, Alokika. So I'm Daylon, and we're actually a company that's based in Singapore and Malaysia. A lot of people see us as a training company, but we're trying to evolve beyond just being a training company. We're trying to be a good partner to enterprises in supporting their digital transformation journey by helping them think deeper about how they build capabilities within their business, as well as how they rethink on the use of technology and how they could essentially improve their own process, right? And drive innovation, whether it's process innovation or whether it's innovation in new services and products. So that's something we're evolving into. We have had the track record for the last 5 years in training multiple product managers and product designers that work for companies like TikTok, your banks like DBS Bank, as well as different local startups and companies as well around the Southeast Asia region. So we're incredibly proud of that. And recently we just graduated a batch of a business analyst that we helped a client to train for the Singapore government, which is GovTech Singapore. So this is something that we do day in and day out, and we love supporting businesses. We love challenging businesses to rethink how they do their digital transformation, where it's not just about technology, but also about using building capabilities for people, or using research and data as part of their process to validate their assumptions and hypotheses.
So, Daylon, like in today's topic, we're diving into, not just the nuts and bolts of UX research, but also how the perception has shifted over time. And people are started to investing more and, in this field of UX research. So, not so long ago, like UX user experience research was often seen as something which is nice to have and not a must have, right? But however, like you mentioned, with, technologies evolving and new innovation processes coming in, people have started giving importance to this field. And it's not so much a niche discipline anymore. So since you have like over 13 years of experience in this field, would you like to tell us a bit more about this paradigm shift from your perspective?
Yeah. So I think I'm much better as a business leader than a research or design leader, right? I don't particularly have a PhD in psychology or user research or human-computer interaction. So I would like to share very much from a business perspective and how I have, as part of my career, use user research to inform business outcomes. So personally, I started off doing user research and product management as one of my careers in an enterprise setting. And the impact of research, at that point in time, we were trying to build a new direct-to-consumer insurance service in Hong Kong. The impact of that is that we were validating our ideas. We were seeing if there was a product that we could build that could actually capture a portion of the market. And we were also trying to see if there was a viable market for it, right? And research was the very first step that we took to validate that, to de-risk this entire venture that we are, the company called Aviva, which is a British UK insurer, was trying to undertake. And by doing so, that process helped us learn a few things about the customers. And that data that we collected helped to inform our perspective about how confident we are in entering the market. And at the end of the exercise, which is about six months or so, we realized that was not a very good market to pilot our initiative. And the company subsequently decided not to launch a direct-to-consumer. They decided to change and adjust their strategy. So that was the role of research, right? Doing user research on the ground, understanding consumer behavior, and from that, using that as a method to de-risk this initiative when pursuing a form of innovation over here. So that was my very early exposure to using user research to impact business. And then subsequently now, about 5 years ago, when I started my business, which is CuriousCore, I similarly took a very critical view of the business by actually doing a lot of user research on the ground before launching the business, right? I was already an instructor teaching students, and I was helping them to prepare portfolios, and I was teaching for different schools, including polytechnics in Singapore, as well as some universities in Singapore, and some private institutes in Singapore as well. And I realized there was a fundamental gap in how schools train user experience designers. And this was true me practicing my craft as a trainer, but also me understanding my students and what they struggle with, right? So I did my user research, and it was true that I realized that actually a lot of programs don't focus on helping students get a better portfolio. And it was true that I decided to craft a part-time program, part-time because most of my competitors were doing full-time program. And I decided to target part-time people who were thinking of transitioning but did not want to quit their jobs to transition, and they were looking for a good program. So I applied that insight and tweaked the program a few times, but at the start it was targeting students that I already taught and they were struggling. But subsequently they told their friends about it, and we were able to actually find some form of product market fit for the particular program itself. So 5 years onwards, we're still running this program. We're in our 12th batch right now, and we've graduated over more than 150 students in the industry. 80% of them are working either as a product manager or as a UX designer or UX researcher in this field. So that process of actually respecting the data, the research, actually helped save the business in some case and help to de-risk this entrepreneurial venture. So my observation is this: I think it's going to be even more important as we're moving towards an economy where, you know, there's hyper competition, there's globalization, and there's just so much going on right now, and there's just so much offers going on right now for the customer, and there's this just general economy where customers are very savvy and they want to make sure that they get the best value for what they're paying for, right? So in this space, you want to be even more conscious and about what your customers actually want. We want to be even more aware of what the market actually is and how the market will evolve. And I can't stress enough that that means that research is going to play an even more important role. So even now, as I'm growing the business, we're moving towards working with more enterprises and B2B customers. We constantly talk to them. We constantly ask for feedback. We say, hey, our price is too high. Is it too low? Is it good enough? Do we differentiate ourselves properly? Is our value proposition clear enough? We ask those questions as we're sort of like growing another segment in our business. So research is indispensable in this case.
Yeah, simply put, like consumers have become more discerning lately. So with like endless options, at their fingertips, like it's not just one app which is trying to solve a problem. Like if you launch an app which is very niche to a particular sector, you'll see that in sometimes there are millions of competitors who have come up. So like people no longer tolerate subpar experiences. They demand hyper-personalization. They demand intuitive interfaces. So your app or your product not just has to be functional, but it should also cater to other needs of the users.
And now add a perspective. I mean, if you know something your competitor doesn't know, you're one step ahead of them, right? And you know exactly where you're innovating towards too. So research is that competitive advantage.
Yeah, it's no longer just a guessing game. Like you have to be data driven, and your insight have to stay relevant to your competition, and that just can't be from just a business or a stakeholder perspective. User centricity is, I believe, with time it has become everyone's ownership in the organization. So, like you mentioned, like lately, we've also been observing, like on our onboarding calls with the UXarmy, whenever a new client, onboards to our platform. So we've seen that over time, earlier it was just the research team or the design team who were there as a part of the onboarding call and used to explain the tool to them. But with time, we've seen stakeholders, people from the tech team, and everyone from all the teams, like at least one person representing each team being a part of these onboarding calls. So that shows that, okay, stakeholders and the senior management, everybody is recognizing the value of UX research, like you mentioned.
That's good. Yeah. That's really great.
And okay, so on that, Daylon, do you feel that there's a responsibility now with this on the UX researchers' shoulder to make sure that you deliver insights or you deliver whatever you deliver has an impact on the business?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the maturity of the business. Like I think first of all, when we work with enterprise, we also try and understand where they're at in terms of research and design maturity, right? Like, do they have a healthy respect for data-driven decisions, or do they kind of like work on intuition, or just because like the CEO says this is like the color we should use, let's all use this color, right? So we try and get a sense of where they are in terms of maturity, and then we see the role of research and how it plays in this dynamic, right? Because as part of our engagement process, we also do a bit of research, whether we're designing a training program for our customers, or we are trying to help our customers to innovate better or innovate wiser. We will engage like stakeholders. We will have some form of a research process. We then ask if there's existing research, right? Is there like someone who has already done existing research? What have they done? What have they found out? Is there anything that was synthesized from that process? And we see the kind of role that they play in the organization itself. And most of the time, I think research is quite a shared function in most businesses that we encounter. Unless they're a tech business or a tech startup, then they might have dedicated user researchers, but we're also observing that such roles are collapsing into product teams. So product managers are doing the research right now, or a UX designer will need to do the research right now. So it really depends on that maturity. And what we're observing this trend where, you have less people, but you have to do more, or you have to do the same amount of work. And that means like you may have to use tools such as UXRmy to do more, or you have to actually be very smart about the way you work, right? And you have to be you have to prioritize the kind of research projects that you should work on. And one of the biggest complaints that I hear from our alumni, as well as the people, some of the instructors that we talk to who perform the research role, is like the business comes to research expecting research to do the research. And to frame everything, right? And to basically hold your hand in the process. And I don't think that's the right way to do things. I think business should frame the problem. They should be very clear about what they want to find out. They shouldn't throw like a very vague problem to any team, whether it's product or UX or this UX design or research. So that's one of the primary complaints. And I think one thing that a researcher, as if they're so lucky to have, let's say, that specific role in the organization, they can do is to actually invest in research operations, right? Like, how do I enable my organization to think about problems and to frame problems properly, and to consider how much budget they should allocate to doing research, and be realistic about the timelines that they're giving us about finding out this problem. I think when you invest in research operations, when you have a set of process or documentation on how to engage the research team, or even data or research studies that you have done as a researcher, and circulating that back into the business itself, I think that means you can actually unlock even more value from your research itself. You don't do repetitive work. You're more specific and sharp about the kind of questions you're asking. You're able to, like, do the study once and maybe get even more, right? Like, maybe you can do a study, but different cross-functional teams might actually want similar data from the same set of customers. So I think that's really the way to go, right? You want to unlock more value out of the research that you're doing.
So earlier, like you mentioned that, more and more product managers are getting involved into research. Everybody is doing everything right now. So what's your opinion on this kind of work culture? So do you think, like, in your opinion, the research that we're doing is being tampered a bit, or the quality is being compromised? Or you feel that for UX research, this is something good, that it's being democratized as a, field itself, and everybody is using it? So, like, what are your thoughts?
I'm definitely for democratization of user research. I think it's a skill that everyone should pick up and learn and do. I think there's a time and place for someone who has a PhD in psychology or human-computer interaction to come in and to improve the quality of the research study, right? There's a time and place for that. But there's also a time and place for doing a very quick and dirty study, but respecting the minimum number of people you have to survey, for example, or respecting, like, doing some quality checks on your survey questions, for example. I think that's something that can be taught. That's something that people can learn, including business people, right? You don't have to get a PhD or a master degree to learn that. So I'm definitely 100% for research democratization, and I want. I just think if you, as a stakeholder, if you include research or you include data as part of your decision making, you just improve the quality of decisions that are made within the company. You just end up churning better products and services for customers.
And in your opinion, like, how do we make sure that, so like you mentioned, that stakeholders, for, the sake of their business, they should run some research. So how do you make sure that the research that they run or the insights that we get out of it are not biased? Because it might just happen. Yeah.
I think that's when it comes back to research operations. If there's, let's say, a resident researcher, they can vet the research study, or they can have some kind of documentation that gives some high-level advice, or they can engage in trusted partners, right, in this process where whether it's market research or whether it's user research, where these partners will know what they're doing, and they can just engage them and involve them in this process of finding out the answers to certain questions that they have. So there's definitely a certain way to maintain that quality and consistency. And I do think, also personally as an educator, I think they should understand the basics of how research works and what kind of value it provides. Because I would say back in university, a lot of the research that we do is very simple, right? It's like, hey, let's quote from a source, make sure it's a reliable source, and then let's try and do some level of inference from it. And that's about it, right? So it's like very simple. You only know one or two methods, which is like go do a survey, go do some desk research, right? That's probably the two methods that you learned back in university. So it'll be good if they learn things like user interviews. It'll be good that they learn things like, okay, how do you do affinity mapping? It'll be good to know, like, okay, what is the what are some of the analysis that you can do, right? How do you establish a baseline, for example, and how do you see an improvement from it? What's the confidence interval that you should aim for? What's the minimum number of survey participants? I think all these things can be taught in like one day, right? Like we teach the fundamentals of user research in one day. So, or it can be done in even less if, let's say, you really need a crash course on it. So I think that's good for them to pick it up.
So it's good that everybody's learning about it, but it's also important to have the basics right. Otherwise, it's one of
100%.
Everyone and do more harm than good in the business if you don't get it right.
Yes.
Okay. So moving on, Daylon, with like coming of new technologies like AI, which has been the buzz for the past around 2 years, I guess, like 1 year to be more precise. So, like, what is your advice to someone who's in this state? How do we like stay at par with coming of new technologies like AI? So AI is recent, but of course, in the coming future, there'll be more technologies. So what would be your advice to somebody who's in this state to stay relevant, in modern times with new developing technology?
Yeah. So recently we updated our curriculum because we train people to work in the industry, so we have to stay ahead and relevant for the time. So we included a module that talks about how AI plays a role in the product design process. And essentially, we introduce a number of tools that help to speed up the grunt work, right, of doing product design. For example, let's say your design is in dark mode, is in light mode right now, and you want to change to dark mode. There are AI tools for that, and they can do it fairly quickly and fairly accurately. So that's the state of technology, right? We should use tools to do busy work or grunt work, things that don't provide a lot of value. And we also encourage our trainees and our students to use software like ChatGPT to generate research questions and user interview questions as a first step. But we do tell them, hey, you at the end of the day, you are the researcher, right? You're playing the role of the researcher. You should still be mindful of the type of questions that are being generated. Is it rubbish? Is it like very, very basic questions? Are you going in depth? Are you testing for their attitudes? Are you trying to understand their behaviors? Do you have enough questions from each side? Are you asking questions? Because AI is not going to be like, sometimes AI asks leading questions, and you're going to be the one who correct the AI in this process. They're not going to be the researcher. So I think technology in such areas are getting better, but we should see AI as a assistant to help us to speed certain parts of the process up. And it's a good they're good at providing like a draft as a first step. But at the end of the day, you are the professional and you are the person that's going to go out there and put your neck out there and say, hey, this is the research I've done. This is the data I've collected. This is the analysis that I've done. So you should own that. And you cannot blame AI if that research turns out badly. So I think there is still a role for good research and good research skills. It's just that a lot of the grunt work that we may be used to is like now happening a lot faster and a lot easier because of the developments in Gen AI.
They should only see it as an enabler to, do more manual work than what you used to do earlier.
Yeah.
So maybe like sometimes how I use it is just to write the prompt and generate some ideas, because of course I know that it's not going to be personalized to the topic or, in depth to what I'm trying to study, and it's going to be biased. But at least you get like a direction for your past that, okay, this is also something I could have missed out, and then you start working around that. So I think in that ways it's really helpful.
That's right. Yeah, I really think people shouldn't get lazy because that's AI, right? Like AI is not replacing critical thinking. Unless you want it to, right? Like unless you want it to, you want to, outsource your thinking and your critical perspective to AI, which I think you should, right? Like, so we should move up the value chain as human beings and try and do things that have like higher value, that provide higher value for the economy.
Okay, so just very quickly, Daylon, what do you think is the best possible way for someone to integrate like a good research methodology into their business development process? Like, say for example, if there's a company who wants to start out with UX research, like what's the best way that they can do it, which generates good outcomes?
I think there are many ways that a company can start including research as part of their process. In fact, they might already be doing it, right? So first of all, one thing I noticed when I was working for enterprises is that a lot of enterprises have the habit of collecting customer feedback, right? So there's a ton of data that's sitting there. But it seems like only customer support or customer service is using that data, like not the rest of the business. So I think for a start, go look at the data that your customers have given you, whether it's recent, whether it's like less recent, categorize it, structure it into different things. Maybe like it could be your website, it could be your sales process, right? And then try and analyze the data and understand what's going on over there. And I think there are a lot of interesting tools out there using AI that's also helpful in doing this process these days, right? Like one of the tools we ask our students to use is the word cloud tool. And then there's so many different word cloud tools out there. You just put all this qualitative information, qualitative data in a word cloud, and it generates and tells you what's the most common word over there and what's the most common ideas. Or if you're using a tool like, say, FigJam, which is under Figma, you could essentially key in all the data and ask FigJam AI to sort an affinity map and categorize data from it. So that there are some tools available that helps you to make sense of the data, and I think those are great places to start.
Okay. So lastly, just one question more from my side. So what do you think is the future of this business development process? And how do you think the role of, UX researchers, product managers is going to grow in the coming years? How do you see that evolving?
When you say business development, do you mean like sales, or do you mean like business in general?
No, I mean the business in general. Like, how do you decide which feature or which product you want to work upon next, and how do you improve your processes and all of that?
Right. I believe there is still a place for a solid product design process, right? And a solid product design process includes research, no doubt. So whether it's executed by a product manager or product designer or product engineer, that could change, that could evolve. Roles could evolve as well. But I think there is always there's always going to be a place for someone to oversee the entire process. There's always going to be a place for someone who asks the right questions when it comes to innovating new products and services, and be able to form a hypothesis, be able to validate this hypothesis, and be able to keep tweaking and optimizing, and trying to grow a business, right? By refining the hypothesis or validating certain assumptions in the business. So there's always going to be a place for someone who oversees that process and also executes that process. Whether it's a product manager, whether it's a product designer, whether it's a product engineer, that's debatable. I don't know how the roles will evolve, but someone needs to do that. And I don't foresee AI can do that. If they can, I'll be super happy, because that means AI can create massive economic value. Like imagine AI can generate 10 business ideas that are validated from the market, validated by users. I mean, if AI ever comes to that, then that will be a very, very interesting time to live in. Then we just all need to play the role of an investor and invest in things that AI believe would create massive economic value. Until that time comes, I think as human beings, we should use higher order thinking to see how we can manage the innovation process better. And innovation is one of the key ways to raise productivity in an economy, and to actually help create new jobs and new value in the economy itself. So I think that's going to be the way to go moving forward. Whether that person will be a product manager or be called a product manager, that's debatable. I think it could be anyone. It could be a business leader as well.
Okay. So I think as we wrap up our today's discussion, one thing that I could understand from your insights was that, UX research, it's not just a word, but rather it's a strategy which should be implemented very carefully and very thoughtfully. And so from diving into innovation to, fostering customer loyalty, the insights gained, they have the power to shape the success of an organization or a business.
Yeah, it's a competitive advantage. That's the key message.
Thank you so much for joining us in this session today, Daylon, and thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. And I hope that whenever this podcast is out, anybody who's listening to this should definitely go and check out CuriousCore. If you already are a UX researcher, of course, you'll get to learn something new, on how it has evolved in the coming times. Like Daylon mentioned, they keep updating their content as per the industry standards. So definitely for anyone who's aspiring to build a career in this industry, they should definitely check it out.
And just to add, we do also have a free podcast for listeners out there. So it's called Working in UX Design. So you're welcome to refer to past episodes if you're interested in deepening your craft or understanding the connection between business and design.
Don't check it out. Thank you, everyone who's going to listen to this podcast.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for your time, Daylon. Everybody, I hope everybody is going to be
You're welcome.
really valuable insights from this talk.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of User Insights. We hope you gained valuable insights from our conversation.